Welcome to the Coffee with Karen podcast, a weekly chat show discussing everything from holistic health to current affairs from a mental, physical and spiritual perspective. Get your weekly cup of positivity with a sprinkling of woo-woo.
Fantastic. So we are live with this week's A Coffee with Karen. Cup of positivity with just a sprinkling of woo-woo. So today's show, physical and emotional impact of midlife on a woman's health and well-being. So this is a show where I interview a number of either coaches, consultants, therapists, or healers, because sometimes those titles doesn't really explain what it is they do, who they are helping, what problems they are specifically solving, and what tools they have in their toolbox. So my name's Karen, your host. We are the new owners of Midlife radio station and Raising Vibrations podcast network. So if you're a coach out there, a consultant out there, therapist that wants to get your message heard, then get in touch. Go to KarenRobertsCoaching.com. So today we have the lovely Lynne with us. So Lynne, firstly, could you share with the audience a little bit about, first of all, what you do, who you are and what you do?
Yep. So as you say, I'm Lynne Wadsworth. I am coming to you from sunny Florida, although actually it's cold at the moment. So originally from Coventry, England, and had really poor health issues myself. So I went to college, studied health, nutrition, wellness, holistic health, and became a board certified holistic health practitioner, as well as a wellness certified cooking instructor. So I actually help women who are going into that midlife phase, where they're feeling bloated, they're feeling moody, they're feeling like they just are not themselves. They have a lack of confidence in themselves at this point and are starting maybe with some health issues. Symptoms vary, but the thing is, when we're in midlife, our whole world can change. And so I like to address that with women to help them live their best life with confidence and good health.
Right. And so what made you go down the holistic route as opposed to the mainstream route that a lot of people will think of first of all?
So mostly because of my own journey. I got to the point where I was having migraines every day and I was hooked on Vicodin. I wanted out of that vicious cycle, and I knew there had to be a better way. So at the same time, I was going through the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and it was all about holistic health. And so having been somebody who had to rely on pain meds for so long, I looked at the whole holistic approach. And I'm not saying no medications. I'm not a doctor. You should consult your physician, of course, when you have problems. But if there's a way around it where holistic health can support you where you're at, or if there are some alternatives, it's healthier for our bodies. And I'm all about longevity, because let's face it, when my mum was growing up, she never talked about menopause, because back then, a lot of women didn't live many years past then. Now, we're living, when we get to that 40s and 50s, we're only halfway through our lives. And so we want to have that longevity. And a lot of that comes through holistic practices that can really help you have a better life.
But there's so much mixed information out there, isn't there?
Yes,
so
there is.
When I studied nutrition and sport nutrition, I mean, I'm going way back, can't even remember, 95. Although the standard actually doesn't seem to have changed. I more recently went back and studied nutrition to do something else. And it was interesting. It's interesting because what you said right at the beginning, you were eating your grains. We were all taught that, whole grains are healthy and we should be having this at breakfast and this. And it seemed to be very, very dated. I then went on and studied something else, which had a totally opposite, advice as to how to keep healthy. How do you navigate through this? Things are changing all the time, and we're finding out that past research, they actually got it all wrong. And so how do people even get started to understand what is the best thing for them?
Well, of course, my advice as a health coach is to hire a health coach, because we're on internet overload. You can do all of your research and come up with the wrong things. And so really somebody who's keeping up on what's good now, because I know over here and in England, you are even better off than we are, because the EU has put certain standards in for your foods. Well, you're kind of halfway still in there, although where you are after the last few weeks
who knows?
The Prime Minister, who knows?
Who knows?
But over here, we're not as well regulated. So that's something I notice when I come home. I can go into the grocery store and your labeling is better than ours. Over here, our government plate is still all wrong, in my opinion, and from what I've learned. So you really can't even go by governmental standards. So you need to talk to somebody. And that's one reason why I do my free consultations first, because people do have that misinformation. And then not only that, but things are changing. So a few years ago, just an example, we were told to drink 8-ounce glasses of water every day for hydration. Now they're telling you to drink half your body weight in fluid ounces. So, it's a fluid thing. Things change.
Changing, isn't it?
Yes.
The advice on water, again, it all depends on, are you getting enough electrolytes to actually absorb?
Yes.
Nobody wants a flushing system, do they? Otherwise, you're just going to be flushing essential minerals out. It's so... The thing is the way I see it is that I get it. We are all busy. We're all distracted.
Oh, yeah.
And ideally, if we have a symptom come up, we just want to go to someone in authority, or that we perceive to be in authority, to give us a fix. And we know that there is no such thing as a quick fix. We've got to look at and it's interesting, like you said at the beginning, like I'm not anti Western medicine. Look, if I'm in a car crash, mate, get me to that hospital as quick as you can, because they are very, very good at putting us back together. However, there does seem to be a very dated approach to illness, because they're just putting a plaster on the symptom, right? And our bodies we're not just a machine. It's such a complex thing that, who's to know that that's just not a symptom of that, which is a symptom of that. And actually, if you address that underlying issue, well, hey, symptoms disappear. So for people out there, because, and you say the difference between, our countries, okay, right now. I know you're a Brit, really, but you're there over in the States. Because sometimes I think we are under the NHS, and I'm not dissing, it started out as such an amazing thing. Obviously there's some issues there, but what's happened from that is, I feel, is that our conditioning, we have become not addicted, but that's the thing. We wait to go and see a doctor, whereas at least over there, there are lots of options, and because people are paying for it anyway, they can go and choose whatever modality that they choose to fix it, right? Whereas here, if it doesn't come under the NHS, then it's not accredited.
Right.
So how do you see, as a Brit over there, how do you see the differences in people's, in their own perceptions of taking responsibility for their own health?
I think to a degree it's the same in either place. So I'm an advocate for taking care of yourself. You have to be your own advocate when you go to see the doctors, and it can be very hard under the NHS. When I was growing up and even going back to see my mum, this is how I perceived it. So if the doctor says this to you, you believe, because he's like his own little God, that's the God's honest truth.
Yes.
And to a degree, it's the same over here. But with the pop-up of people who do functional medicine over here, or they're naturopathic doctors, which of course you have the same, but I believe that they're named something different. We're beginning to learn that there is something else. So we go to a doctor, and if I didn't know any better, I actually went this week for a checkup because some of my labs are sometimes a bit off. And they have got this tunnel vision. This is the way it's got to be. So you've got to advocate for yourself. My own doctor knows I'm a health coach. And so I'm pretty lucky because I'll say, well, I'm not going to do this and I'm not going to do that. And this is the way I think about that. He kind of lets me get away with it.
Okay, like that. Well, that's good. That's an open-minded doctor you've got there.
It is, but like all other doctors, they've got their own ways that they've been taught. And so midlife is an absolutely huge thing here and in England. So I've gone through this with my niece because she had asked me recently about, I think that I'm going through what you call menopause, but it's really perimenopause. How do I find out? What do I do? And so I'd said, well, you can go to the doctor and ask for a blood test, but number one, doctors very often won't do it. Number two, if they do it, they're going to tell you everything's all right, you're not going through menopause. But that really isn't necessarily so, because women who are in menopause are actually the women who had their last period 12 months ago. It's the whole perimenopausal phase that can last for years, that you can start in your late 30s, in your 40s, in your 50s. And the thing is, then it depends what time of month you go. So if you go, because my daughter's gone through this over here, if you're going when you're mid-cycle or in your cycle, your hormone levels are going to read differently. And then if it does come back that they're, so the doctor's got this panel, they are not taught how to hone in. They don't have the expertise when it comes to hormones like that. And I'm not dissing them for 1 minute. They learned in a certain way, they continued their education, but they're doing it from a Western doctor perspective. Whereas I know there are different tests that you can take that will be a bit more accurate. There are certain times of the month that you don't want to go. And you really have to go a lot by how do you feel. Just because it looks like your hormones are okay, that doesn't necessarily mean they are. It might be a couple of years down the road before they read a little bit wrong. So you've always got to be aware of your body. How does your body feel? Because if we're in tune with it, we know, hey, this isn't normal for my body. So what's going on here?
Yeah, sure. So what I'm getting from that is for people to trust their own intuition. Yeah, nobody's going to know your body better than you.
Right.
No matter who they are. So how would you explain, because sometimes it can be difficult, right, to know, are you in perimenopause? You say that, okay, menopause is 12 months after your last period. So I think I'm getting there. I think I'm up to about 3 now. So come on, moving along. But yes, it can be quite difficult to gauge whether you're in peri, and I would say that's the last few years. But yeah, what is other than knowing, okay, I haven't had anything for 12 months, that means I'm in menopause. How would somebody know that they're already in perimenopause?
So you're going to have to know what's going on in your body. So are you finding yourself where your moods are all up and down? Are you starting to get this belly bloat? Do you just feel fatigued all the time? Do you feel, this is the way I describe it, do you feel a little bit off? You're just not really with it. You've got brain fog. You can never get that clarity of thought. Your motivation might have dropped. Your self-confidence might have dropped a bit because you're looking at yourself and here comes this belly fat that just won't go away. And are you starting to get hot flashes? So I have to say that hot flash wise, I did really well. I had some, but I also have to tell you, I still get them sometimes. Even when you're in menopause, remember that doesn't mean it's the end of it. You've still got hormones in your body. They still act up once in a while. So sometimes you might even have a hot flash. I talked to a lady who was in her 80s a few weeks ago, and she told me she still has hot flashes, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh. So you, yeah.
30. Not that I have got to say that I have been very lucky. I think when I say hot flashes, none of it's been uncomfortable. It just means when my daughter comes in the room and says it's freezing, I go, is it? I'm just not. I don't feel the cold like I used to, and I would have. So far, touch wood, it's not got to the totally uncomfortable stage. But obviously, this is the thing, isn't it? Every woman is different, right? Everybody's going to have, I presume, a different bunch of symptoms. So, what are some of the biggest challenges really that women face when they are going through this sort of the perimenopause?
So I would say really this belly bloat that just, I call it belly bloat, but it's really visceral fat. It's the fat in your stomach that starts to appear that maybe you haven't had before. It is the hot flashes for some women. It can just be that you are so moody, you find yourself flying off the handle at somebody. Or maybe you become introverted, whereas before you weren't like that. There are some social anxieties that go along with it. Some people have to deal with anxiety that goes along with menopause. So every woman is different with the symptoms she might show. So if you're aware of the whole spectrum of symptoms that are out there, then you can better gauge, and don't go to Dr. Google for what are all the symptoms of menopause. But
the list could be endless, couldn't it? And what is it that affects you? Is there particularly one thing, or is it just a combination of things that are going to affect all this? Why is it that some people suffer like this, some people suffer like that?
So it really all comes down to the balance of your hormones. Where are your hormones at? Where are you out of balance as to what might affect you the most? So, your big ones are like your testosterone, which as women, we don't tend to think about because we think, oh, those are men's hormones, but very important for balancing. Your estrogen and your progesterone. But if you look it up, there are lots of hormones in our body. And so we're really looking for that balance. You can do some simple tests. You can do a saliva test that you can send in for yourself, and it comes back and it will tell you what you're lacking in. Now you can try then, so like what I often do with women who are experiencing quite a few symptoms, I'll put them on, and I hate the word, but it's a detox, but it's a specific way of eating through foods that will help balance out your hormones. So you're not going to starve. You're not going to have to go buy these pills and make yourself go to the bathroom. This is all food, but it will balance out your hormones. If after that couple of week period you're feeling better, then something is a bit off in there. as I say, you can do a saliva test to begin with. They're a little bit more accurate than going to a doctor and having just a regular hormone panel. There is
but when would that be? So, like, I know you did mention earlier that, you know, it would depend on what part of your cycle you were in when you went and had the test, what's going to show up. So for somebody out there that's going to go and do a saliva test or whatever, some kind of hormonal test, when is the best place, the best time?
Right. So it depends on your cycle. So, you know, some women are 28 days on the dot, some are in between. So you want to stay away from mid-cycle and your actual period. So you're going to have to hit that sweet spot like a week in between if you're on a 28-day cycle. Right. Right after you've had your period, it's a bit off as well. So you're going to want to wait a few days. You're even better off doing it mid-cycle than you are right after or right before your period.
Either a week in or on the week before. Okay.
And of course, that can be difficult if you're finding that you're going months in between now. Then actually you've got a big window where you can do that. You know, just wait a couple of weeks after your period and then think about doing it. So, you know, in the case of like my daughter who went, and I think that she was mid-cycle, and the doctor said to her, you know, it depends where in your cycle you are. You were mid-cycle, so they're off. Other than doing what we call over here a Dutch blood test, which is a more expansive panel for hormones, you know, if you're just having blood tests, they're really not that accurate. And a lot of times you have to go outside of the NHS or outside of your health plan over here to find somebody that's going to do that. Very often you can find over here a functional medicine doctor. Over there, if you've got some kind of naturopath that has the ability to give you a prescription to go and get some blood work, they can work with you a little more comprehensively. Some health coaches are allowed to link up with a doctor and ask for blood tests at a specific time. So it really
worth it. Definitely,
yes, it is. So I went through menopause, and mine was kind of different because I had a hysterectomy, but it was a partial hysterectomy, and I still had my ovaries, so I still went through the process of menopause, and I was kind of second guessing myself. I found a gynecologist who did work with hormones, and to me, it's still kind of trial and error with them, because what he was doing was like a pellet that they put in under the skin on the hip or on the backside. And they have to learn again how to regulate it, because 1 month he gave me way too much testosterone, and it was awful. So again, it comes down to finding the right practitioner who really knows what they're doing, because I would never go back to him again not that I need it now, although you have to remember past menopause or postmenopausal, you're still dealing with hormone imbalances. So you still, maybe through your food, maybe through what you drink, maybe through a few supplements, you can balance out your hormones more easily. But women think, I'm going through perimenopause, oh, I'm in menopause, it's all over now. But if we want a healthy body for the rest of our lives, we've still got to remember we do have hormones, and they do play a role in our lives, and we do have to make sure that they're balanced. And sometimes you can tell if they're off by your mood, by the way that you feel, and then you might want to get with your doctor and ask, well, what hormones might be out of balance, or again, do a saliva test, something that's going to show you, because you can go to a health food store, and I know over there you have some fantastic ones, and you can buy things like a progesterone cream or an estrogen cream or a testosterone cream if you're just deficient in those areas, that will help build it up a bit, but it's a more natural way to do it. Now, I'm not discounting HRT. Some women are in such a bad state.
Whatever works, I get it. And it's funny that you said right at the beginning, and this is the way I see it, is if that's brilliant for, you know, what's going on at the emergency stage, right? So if things are bad enough, and I get it, I'm sure if I was really suffering that bad, I would go for HRT because I just need it to stop. However, the longer term, if you can fix that longer term, yes, I can remember even, I don't think we can get it anymore, but I can remember even my sister getting, like I'm going back 20 years, so obviously she was in perimenopause, but suffering really badly every month. So, and I know, I think it was a wild yam. It was some kind of cream to encourage the body to create more progesterone, because quite often, you know, they're always talking about estrogen, and you think, well, everything pretty much is an estrogen mimic, isn't it? Out there, all the chemicals and, you know, a lot of surely it's, I mean, and have you found a difference? Is there been more people that actually it's the progesterone that they're lacking in, but you don't necessarily get the side effects as opposed to the estrogen?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Because you hear a lot over here about estrogen dominance, which we tend to have when we get into this midlife period. So I remember when I was going through it, first of all, they put me on progesterone pills. And I know that's totally unhealthy. It's not something I would now recommend, having gone into this area and knowing a bit more. So the HRT then they put me on, and it was in its early stages. They never even talked about this should be a short-term thing. They would tell you, oh, you could be on this for the rest of your life. Well, no, thank you. Then I learned better. And, you know, I mean, there are ways through diet. There are ways through exercise. It's diet, of course. And I don't mean go on a diet because you're fat, just the way that you eat. There are certain foods that are going to help you feel better, get your levels a little better, which is why I like to do this kind of hormonal detox with women. But you're always thinking one of the biggest things for women in midlife is for them to learn to ditch the processed foods and to get rid of the sugar. And I know that's easier said than done. Believe me, I'm a good English chocoholic who would give anything for Cadbury's milk chocolate. So, you know, I mean, I get it. It's not an easy thing. And you're not just looking at how much sugar do you drink in your tea, how much candy or sweets do you have. It's all the foods that we're eating. Our processed foods are absolutely hidden with artificial sweeteners that are so bad for our bodies at any time, but it's going to affect you even more in midlife. So you really have to be your own label detective and see what it is that's in there.
And that is, it's in, I love what you say there, because I'm a total advocate for, you know, just whole foods, just, you know, if it's a one ingredient food, great. Otherwise, because we do, it does seem to be that we're almost killing ourselves slowly because of the diet we're having. And, you talk about sugar, and I totally 100% believe that sugar is our biggest enemy. And like you say, it's so hidden, and not just you know, my mum used to say to me, but I haven't got a sweet tooth. I go, Mum, you're eating bread, you're eating potato, you're eating rice. It all breaks down to sugar. You know, you think you'd be, you know, because you're eating all your organic fruit and veg, but you're eating all of that on top of this. It's sugar.
Yes.
And that seems to me the misconception. People are thinking, well, I'm okay. I don't drink Coke, I shouldn't name brand name, but I'm not drinking fizzy drinks. All right. I'm all right because I don't like sweets, or I don't like cake. But yes, it's so much more than that.
It is. That was a huge thing that got me through my whole migraine thing that was daily. Of course, first of all, I got off my narcotics, but then they taught me at this clinic that I was going to at the same time I was learning at the Institute of Nutrition how you can take care of yourself holistically. And a lot of it's prevention, but they kind of really meshed with what I was learning. And one thing that they did there that, of course, you don't need in daily life, but they did. So we'd learn how to scan our bodies with biofeedback to find where we were holding our stress and tension, because that's a big thing for migraines. It's also a big thing, though, for women in midlife, because we seem to be really stressed out. We've got all of these physical things going on, and then we're more stressed. Maybe we're still in that corporate job and we don't like it. That's where I was at. Maybe your kids are moving out of home and it's really stressful for you and you feel like you're going crazy. You're in this, what we call empty nest syndrome, and it's very stressful.
We don't, isn't it? And you, yeah, right. I do. Again, I don't think people totally understand how much stress has an effect on their body. So yeah, I mean, again, it's another hormone,
it's
right?
Hormones.
So it's just going to switch everything else off, pretty much. You know, you've either got to run from that saber-toothed tiger that's not actually there, or you've got to freeze, or you've got to stand there and fight. I mean, and I know more and more we are talking about this, but again, I still don't think that people understand that actually that is the big thing that's going on, because everything else is going to get pushed away because it's not as important. Our bodies want to just survive, but we actually want to thrive, right? We want to feel good. Yes. But our bodies, almost like our bodies, as much as I get it, they're trying to protect us because they're just worried about us surviving. But we need more than survival, right?
Right. We definitely need to thrive because we want that longevity, and we want healthy longevity. Because who in their 80s or their 90s want to be going around in a wheelchair or not even being able to get around because they feel so bad? We want to live that healthy life right up until we die. Now, of course, I realize there are genetics, there are different things involved, but I'm saying that's our true goal. It's my goal, because my health goal is to get into that stage of life feeling good, because I can honestly tell you I feel better now than I felt in my 40s and 50s, and a lot of it is because I know how to take care of my body now.
And that's just proof in the pudding, isn't it?
Yes.
It's that, and it's not, it's not people's fault, because we don't know what we don't know, right? If they taught us, and like we said earlier, unfortunately, quite often the nutritional advice that was given to us years ago is so backward and so bad for us. So people thinking, people say to me so often, I eat healthy, and then I'm thinking, that's not.
So write it down in a diary every day what you eat, and then look and see how healthy it really is.
But a lot of people think that the way they're eating is healthy. They've been told to have their breakfast cereal with all these whole grains and this and that, and a banana and an orange juice, or porridge and all sugar to start the, and then of course they're hungry at mid-morning. No wonder they're eating every couple of hours, because they're hungry. They've got rid of their sugar store from their muscles and their liver, and they're hungry again. And then they're going for another. What is it? It's a snack. Or wherever we go here, you go for a coffee. All that's really available are croissants or some kind of cakey thing. It's just boom, 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 boom. No wonder people find themselves. And it's only when, like you said, you've looked for an alternative way. You've tried the normal route. it wasn't working for you, and then you've searched out something that's actually giving different advice. So people can think that they're doing, oh, well, I'm eating healthy, I'm doing this, and this, when actually by changing their diet, and quite often, the way I see things is quite often going back to how we ate in the 50s. Let's go back to how, and previously, maybe we need to go back to how we used to eat. And of course, organic didn't exist because they hadn't released the poisons and the toxins.
Right.
And that we're bombarded with, because it's interesting that you say that you take people through a detox. So when you talk about a detox, what sort of things are you encouraging for them to actually get rid of some of the poisons and the toxins that have built up in their bodies?
So I do mine a little differently, since it's with specific foods. So in my detox, there are specific foods. So like sweet potatoes are on there because they're very healthy for you. A lot of vegetables. You go for like 3 days where you can eat chicken or you can eat shrimp or something like that. And then we get off that type of protein altogether. And then we'll add in things like hemp seed or flax or chia, something to get in your healthy fats, or have a salad that's got some healthy, maybe oil and vinegar. It's a specific...
cycling. It sounds like a bit of a cycling.
Because if you're thinking about sweet potatoes, they're a little bit sweet, obviously, so they're going to help you a little bit with that sugar addiction. But there are also like substitute desserts in there. One of my favorites is very simple to do. It's you go buy cashews and you take something like a Vitamix or a Ninja, something that's going to break it down, because when you do a fast, it becomes a milk, like a cream. So you get it to its creamy stage, and you can put like a layer of the cream, a layer of blueberries or apples or something, then a layer of the cream and a layer of the fruit, and then just sprinkle on some rolled oats at the top, because that will give you a little bit of a crunch. And that makes a good dessert. And I've got different things. You can have it as a snack or you can have it as a dessert. And there are different things like that will help you where you're used to eating something sweet in the evening, but it's not going to load you up on sugar. And then what happens is it's not just your hormones, it's also if you've got food sensitivities, which we seem to get as we get older, it also seems to take care of those. And you can lose a little bit of weight. You can lose a bit of that visceral fat, because we have to remember that if we go on a diet because we're not happy with the way we look, we're going into starvation mode, and then our bodies are eating off
the muscle.
Yes, basically.
We don't want it doing that. Diets are bad. Diets should be banned. Diets
they should.
Don't work. You're just gonna get bigger and feel worse. And this is in so it's like, I love that. I'm going to try that. I've not tried to break down cashews that much. And and then that's it. It's all about the balance. So you've got the protein, you've got the fat, you've got a little bit of sugar with some oats. So it's not like totally get rid of it. But the trouble is, it's the amount of it's the portion size.
Yes.
Maybe a bowl of oats might be about too much. Couple sprinkled on the top and toasted, and so it's crunchy. Oh, I think I'm going to try that one. Quite like that. Because, I know for me, sugar has always been my addiction. They say it's more addictive than cocaine. And I believe it. Yeah. People don't realise. People can be sitting judgment of somebody that's struggling, but if their hormones are out of balance, and their leptin is all out of balance and ghrelin is all out of balance, and so they're not getting that message to say that they're full. Like I used to be just like, I've got to finish the plate, because some of that can be mental addiction
Yes.
from, I'm not blaming my mum, but I'm
Right,
saying
it is
some
childhood.
things, you're not going to have dessert until you finish your dinner. So
Right.
you finish up because you wanted that, even though you were full.
And I think some of their mentality was, for my mum, that was post-war era into the
Where it was
50s when
needed.
there was a lack. And so then they didn't want to waste what they'd got.
Yes.
And that carried on all of their lives. And then the eating fast, of course, that's another way, because it takes 20 minutes for your brain to signal your stomach when you're saying that you don't know if you're full. So I think that people born post World War II or lived in that era post World War II and were prone to see their parents with that mentality. My mum used to gobble up her food in 2 or 3 minutes. And so that was a normal thing. I never heard anything about eating and enjoying your food because it's going to take 20 minutes to tell your stomach you're full. Well, if you don't listen to that, by the time you've eaten, you feel bloated, you feel miserable, and you're putting on more weight because you've eaten too much. That again goes back to your portion sizing.
Yes. And the trouble, I suppose, the difference is back then when there was a lack, there were ration, whereas now, we have never been so overfed but so undernourished.
Yes.
Just the quality. I mean, I have to say, what was I saying even to my daughter the other day? It's just like, this cheese tastes plastic. Everything tastes it just tastes so fake. Like you're eating plastic. It's just like, this, is this even edible? And yet, you spend that little bit of money. I mean, I would say that we would rather go organic and buy less and have better quality food than, because it just seems to be everything is a filler. You go in, you're hungry, you stop at a petrol, if you're traveling, you stop at a petrol station. There's nothing decent to eat, is there? There's nothing out of the bag. There's nothing that's manufactured, processed, probably on a chemical scale, probably isn't far off plastic. Sometimes it's not that easy, is it?
It isn't. I teach my clients how to, if they're going on a trip like that, how to pack simple food so that they don't have to go into the petrol station, or as we call it, a gas station here, and get that junk.
Because it's horrendous. A lot of things, you stop off and all it is junk. What should we have? What's the best out of, all of this? Choose your poison. Which ones?
Yeah.
Which is such a shame. And like we say, like even having organic, do you think that even a lot of those pesticides, herbicides they are having an impact on our hormones, aren't they?
They are, absolutely. That's one of the big contributing factors. The pesticides, our whole environment, it has a disastrous effect on our hormones. So I think this is just my thoughts. So many people nowadays, women go into early perimenopause, and I think that's one of the contributing factors to that.
Yes, I definitely. I mean, I suppose it's difficult to say without, I mean, who was looking at the stats, maybe even, because years ago, I mean, is there a change? Like you say, people are going into perimenopause a lot earlier. I mean, is that fact? Is that stats wide? Can they see that now?
I don't know as they've really come up with any. They've done some research. There have been some studies, but very few and far between.
Yeah, I suppose they weren't testing back then. They weren't
right.
Back then.
And
so
it's not just pesticides in foods. You've got in your environment. You think about what you clean your house with. I mean, that's another thing. So you're dealing with
people pumping out. I mean, and I do think, when we talk about detoxing, I think detoxing is so important now because, years ago, you wouldn't have had a plug-in air freshener and you wouldn't have those really toxic cleaners in your kitchen or bathroom. I mean, we don't have any of that in this house at all anymore. We purely use our Kangen machine for acidic water to clean or to antibacterial and aromatherapy oils. It's because I was so aware of, you know, the one thing is a plug-in. We're not saying a plug-in air freshener is going to kill you, right? Nobody's saying that, but it's the things that you do every day, the products that you use or the things that you consume every day, day in, day out, over a period of 50 years, are going to have a knock-on effect.
Right.
Right. So, and I'm not saying, I'm not sat here just eating lentils or anything, I like a drink,
Right.
a Prosecco, but it's like I'll choose my poison. If I can reduce it in some way in the day-to-day, then on the weekend I can do this, and this, right?
Right. That's the same kind of mentality I have. It's the 80-20 rule is what I call it. You've got to, if you don't allow that space for those things, then you're not going to be successful, because soon you're going to feel like you're living a life of deprivation and starvation.
Yeah. No. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do not miss having a plug-in. I'd much rather my diffuser with some aromatherapy oils in rather than a plug-in. I'll choose to clean with acidic water as opposed to some harsh chemical. So it's just pick and choose. So this having this wonderful holistic effect on outlook for your clients. So you're helping them on lots of different areas, right? You're helping them through this time to help them balance out their hormones. So what else are you doing? So you're looking at their nutrition, you're looking at detoxing them. What other things are you? How else?
So I look at their stress levels, and teach them how to make sure that they've got self-care sprinkled in there throughout the day. I'm talking to them about their mindset, because a lot of it, let's face it, whatever we're doing, it begins in the mind. So you can have this awful feeling of dread when you're thinking you're going into perimenopause, menopause, and so you have to kind of coach them out of that. Another one of the big pillars of balancing your hormones and feeling better is teaching them to exercise. If they are not on board with an exercise routine, I will hold them accountable to add certain things in, because exercise is such a huge one for helping us balance hormones. I mean, let's face it, if you're doing a good workout, then you've got that feel-good hormone going at the end. Sleep is another big one. And I realize at this stage of life, for many women, it's very hard to sleep well. We might fall asleep, but then we wake up. And actually, some of the essential oils are wonderful for helping to get us back off to sleep in a healthy way.
Right. And even, I suppose, even silly things like turn your phone off, or turn Wi-Fi off, or turn all these things, because we are so distracted, and not have telly in your room, and we don't have a TV in the house, so there's no chance of that. But because I suppose we just live in a world where we're constantly distracted, aren't we? There's constantly
we are.
Another notification on your phone, and so I can see how some people struggle with their sleep, because all of these distractions, where again they're never used. I mean, let's face it, in the last 15 years, it's not a long time, is it, where this kind of lifestyle has been going.
Right.
And it'd be interesting to see actually what, for the next people going in in say 15 years time, what the difference will be. Or maybe it won't be 15 years time, right? It'll be a lot less.
Yeah.
Because of all these added, we've only got used to all of this in the last 15, 20 years. That's not a long time in human development, is it?
Right. It isn't. Yeah.
Do you see things? So, I mean, obviously, you're trying to help people navigate this phase of their life, going through menopause and into menopause. Do you see things getting better or worse?
I personally think that things will definitely get worse because the digital world is not going away. The pesticides are probably not going away, not unless somebody does something pretty drastic. So, yeah, I think that we're really doing ourselves a disservice at this period in history of just the way you hear on the TV all these environmentalists and people just think they're a bunch of crazy people, but really they're really onto something because there's so much out there that is so disruptive to our bodies and to our
And there's
health.
no turning back, because this is the issue. I can remember, I'm going back 20 years when they were talking. I can remember listening to talks. People that have changed from, from big pharma into the holistic side of things, and them saying then that the problem with even, GMO food, that it's almost like it's too late because it's the seeds. It's been, once it's done, there is no, very difficult to turn back. Somebody has an organic farm, but the pesticides could be leaking from somewhere else, and there's almost like no escape, which was always very worrying. And I can remember hearing that. I'm going back a good 20 years. So what's coming now is, they'll be sorry when it's all gone. They'll be sorry when it's all gone. So really what I'm taking from you with this conversation is for people to take responsibility. It's your body. You're the one that's living in it. Nobody else. It's your home. Take responsibility for your own health. Trust your own intuition and know that there is help out there. Things can, I'm a total believer that pretty much, unless it's some totally rare genetic disorder, everything can be fixed. There's a solution. It's just finding out what is the issue. Are you along those lines?
Yes, it just reminded me of that quote by Hippocrates that let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. I mean, Hippocrates preached and taught a lot along those lines. And so we need to be careful what we're taking in, whether it's through our ears, through our mouth, what we're putting on there and we're taking in through our skin. Food plays a huge role, and you really have to watch what you eat. I'm not saying going on some strict diet, but unless things change dramatically, and I don't see them going that way because everybody is wanting this faster, quicker fix for everything. So it's up to us to choose the right thing.
Yeah, and something I felt like you were going to go down that route was what we haven't mentioned is what we put on our skin, because women obviously will possibly use more actually toxic products than men, because we want our skin to be soft, we want to cleanse and moisturize and this stuff and makeup and perfume. So again, even that side of things, do you see the difference in women's hormones when they're going through perimenopause and menopause?
Yeah, because it's chemicals that you're putting on your skin. So you want to look for something that is natural. And we think that natural can't fix some of these things that we're scared of. So maybe you see those wrinkles coming on, you don't like them, and you think, well, I've got to go do Botox or Dysport, or I've got to go buy an expensive cream. There are some natural solutions that you can find. There's makeup that's natural.
bit of coconut all does wonders.
Yes, yes.
I love a bit of coconut. It goes on everywhere. People laugh at me because it's like, got one tub, I use it for cooking, goes on my hair, goes on my skin. And collagen. I mean, you know, this is the trouble, people going too far. Again, diet, too extreme. So going to vegan, but you're not getting the collagen. You need the, you know, some good bone broth, some good, you know, getting it naturally. That's going to help with the wrinkles.
Yeah,
yeah. But it does seem to be that, again, people don't necessarily pay attention to those things because they see it's going on their skin, but your skin's the largest organ, really, isn't it? It's going to absorb everything.
Yes.
And do you think a lot of those products can be estrogen mimics too?
Yeah, they can definitely disrupt your hormones. So going to a more natural thing, anything that you can do that's more natural is going to keep you more balanced. And a happy body is a younger body. It's not only going to make you feel better, but it's going to make you look better. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic advice. So really, you really are offering a complete holistic package here. So if somebody's out there that is maybe suffering or feels that, oh yeah, maybe I am going through the perimenopause, maybe I can, you know, do things that are going to correct. But obviously, if they're watching the video, they can see your website. But for the listeners, what is your website?
holistic-healthandwellness.com.
Awesome. And it took me a while to get that one right, but we got there in the end. So, and also if they were to find you on Facebook, how would they find you on Facebook or LinkedIn?
So Facebook, I'm Lynne Wadsworth, or you can go to my Holistic Health and Wellness page, which is my business page. I also have a group called the Energized Healthy Women's Club, where we talk about all these kinds of things and encourage one another through this phase of life. LinkedIn I don't use so much, but again, it's Lynne.Wadsworth. Instagram is Lynne Wadsworth. Most everything is Lynne Wadsworth, and I have my own podcast that is Living Life Naturally.
Living Life Naturally, love it. So I love your outlook, and then I'm although I'm no longer in the health and wellness industry at all, I do come from the fitness arena and then the nutrition side of things. But it's still my passion. But again, like I say, I'm all about balance. I don't pretend that I'm sat on a or eating lentils with a halo over my head. It's all about balance. So balancing your hormones so that you can navigate through this. I mean, it's so annoying, isn't it, Lynn? What we go through as women, it's so unfair.
It is.
I mean, my daughter's like, no, I'm not having kids. She suffers. She bless her. She does go through it, but she's like, I'm not. Can I sell my eggs? I'm like, no, darling, you really do. I'm going to sell my eggs because I'm not having this, because it's we go through it from, you know, young teenage years all the way up, and it doesn't seem to end. You've now scared me now talking about
but remember, if you're living your life in a natural way and you're eating the right foods, you're less likely to have that problem when you get to your 70s and 80s.
Right. Well, there you go. So it's all about prevention is better than cure. So going back to that line, doesn't have to be none of that and only this. It's all about balance. So if you're intrigued and you want to know more, get in touch. Thank you so much for your time today.
Karen.
It's been lovely speaking with you. And the rest of you, I will be back next week with a Coffee with Karen. Bye for now.
Welcome to the Coffee with Karen podcast, a weekly chat show discussing everything from holistic health to current affairs from a mental, physical, and spiritual perspective. Get your weekly cup of positivity